Hi everybody! Thanks for joining me to color. Let me organize some of my stuff here. Some kind of stuff. I have some stuff. All right, let's see here. So today we are going to be working on this cute little Squidgy and Teddy image. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So we're going to have a quick commercial while we wait for everybody to show up or see who's going to come and color today. So we're going to do this guy, and I think I'm going to go out a little bit. Oops. Never figure out which way I want to go. Okay, so we're going to go out. Okay, so this week we're going to be doing this. Squidgy and Teddy, and this is a kit available over in the store, so if you want to head over and grab one, they are still available, so you can pick that up. And this kit comes with a piece of watercolor paper and a piece of Nina paper, so in case if you want to do the Copic coloring, you can, or you can choose to do the watercoloring, which we're going to do. And I'm in the process of editing a video for the Copic coloring. That'll be up later today on my YouTube station. So in case you want to color your kit with Copics, you can, because that will be on there. Hi Trish, thanks for joining me. So next week we are going to be coloring this cute little Moe's digital pencil image called Little Elf Kit. Isn't she cute? And you can find this over on moesdigitalpencil.com. Pick her up if you want to color with me next week. I have a whole list of supplies over on the store blog. If you just look for this post, you will be able to see what I used on here and get it all ready for next Thursday. And then the following week, we are going to be doing the Tilda with stuffed animal. I think that's what she's called. We're going to do her the following week, and I'm in the process of making this into a card kit, so it should be in the store hopefully tomorrow, so you can look for that. All right, so we got our girl here. Let's see. What did I do with all my stuff? I don't know. I've lost it. Okay, so let's get the directions, and we're going to need to have our paint thing, so let's get that. Let's put this over here. Put this down here. Go a little closer. Okay. Hi, thanks for joining me. All right, so I think I got it there all put together here. So let's put some of this stuff over here so I don't spill it. Oh, also don't forget that we are going to be coloring this with Ranger Distress Inks. If you have not picked those up, they're on sale for 50% off over on the store. Just use coupon code RANGER and you can get 50% off ink pads, re-inkers, oxide inks, those re-inkers, stuff like that. I have a bunch and I'm trying to downsize so I can have room to put something else. So if you need any of those, go pick those up. All right, so I'm going to use, today I'm going to use my acrylic block. Whoops, let's go out the other way. So we're going to use my acrylic block and I'm going to use some the ink pads today. I've got a paper towel, a couple jars of water, and a few paint brushes. I've got a number 1, a number 6, and a number 8. I'm not sure which ones I'm going to use, but that's what I brought in here. And so let's go ahead and start by, hi Linda, thanks for joining me. Hi Dee, Sue, and Benchbead 1982. Hi, thanks for joining me. Okay, so we're gonna color her skin first. So for that, we're gonna use tea dye and Tattered Rose. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to, let's put this underneath here so maybe you can see the ink through the ink pad. So I'm going to take some Tattered Rose and I'm just going to smush it onto my ink, onto my acrylic block. I'm going to put a little tea dye down here because you're not going to need too much tea dye, so just a little bit of that. And then we are going to get our brush wet. I'm going to kind of dab my brush off just a little bit so it's not quite so wet. And then I'm going to get my girl's foot wet first. And then I'm going to pick a little bit of my Tattered Rose up. And we're going to paint her foot. Not too complicated so far. Okay. And let's go up here and I'm going to get her hand. Oh, I got something on the center here. Let's brush that off. Some kind of fuzz maybe. Let's go ahead and we will do her hand. And I usually, when I'm watercoloring, I jump around so places can dry. You don't want to do a place that's right next to a place that you just colored because the ink will bleed from your spot you're coloring into the other spot. So you really do have to let it dry. You can also use your heat tool. So I brought that in here in case I get impatient, which happens a lot. Let's get her face wet. And I stamped my girl with Ranger Archival Jet Black ink. You want to use a waterproof ink to watercolor with. And my paper is Arch's 140-pound watercolor paper, and it's cold press. And that's what you get in your kit too. Okay, so we're going to do that. So because you don't want to touch anything else while it's wet, let's see. This little foot here looks like it's dry a little bit. So let's go ahead and I'm going to add some tea dye onto that. So I'm going to pick a little bit of that up on my brush and I'm going to add it where I want it to be darkest. So let's go right next to our bear. And on this side, I'm going to go right next to this side of her leg and under the bear. And then I'm going to wipe that excess off, get my brush wet. So it's just water and then wipe that excess off. And then very lightly tap on the edge of the tea dye and the tattered rose, just so they blend together a little bit. So there's not a harsh line right here on the edge. Let's go up here and we'll add a little bit to her hand. So I'm going to add a shadow right where she's touching her bear and along the bottom of her finger. And again, we're going to get our brush wet, wipe it off, and then I'm just going to tap along the edge of that tea dye to soften that edge up. And I might even on this side, I think I'll put a little bit of my tattered rose on there just to pink up her hand a little bit more. It's looking kind of light. Okay, let's add a little bit to, let me see, is her face dry? Not so much. Not so much. I'm going to blast it with my heat tool because we want that to be dry. I don't want to put tattered rose on there or tea dye on there and have it bleed clear across her face. Okay. So I'll pick up a little bit of this tea dye and I'm going to go underneath of her bangs and then over here by her bear. And then for her cheek, we're going to need to have a little bit of worn lipstick. So let's go ahead and put a little bit of that on my block. I'm adding a little bit more of my tattered rose here along this edge. And then let's see what we can do with our worn lipstick here. So I'm going to put that here. And it's spidering, so I'm going to dry it. So I'll grab a little bit more of my worn lipstick for my cheek over here. Put a little bit more of that on. Dab off my extra. I don't think I need quite that much. And I'm thinking that I'm going to grab a little bit more of this tattered rose here and add it in here a little bit more. And I've got a little bit of color here on my bear. Let's see if we can get that wet. My paintbrush. And then I'm just going to use my paper towel to dab up that extra water there. Okay, so far so good. Let's go down here and add a little bit more to her foot. Adding a little bit of tea dye here. Her face got a little too pink. All right, I'm gonna go with that. I think that looks pretty good. Hi in Spain. Dry, 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 dry. Hi Brooke, thanks for joining me. And Flower, I know I would not say your name, the first part of your name right at all. So hello for joining us. I would completely butcher that. Okay, so I'm going to now do her hair. So for her hair, we're gonna need scattered straw and brushed corduroy. So for my block here, since I'm done with this, I'm just gonna wipe this off because we're not gonna need that. And then I'm going to take my scattered straw. So we're going to use this one first. I'm going to put some of that on there. And then we'll need a little bit of brushed corduroy. So let's put that on here. Oops, that's probably way too much. Look how much I got on there. That's a lot. Her face or her hair is not that big, but that's what we're going to go with. So for her hair over here, I'm going to again get it wet. Make sure her face is dry. And I'm going to pick up some of my scattered straw first. And we're going to put some of that in here. Rinse my brush off. I'm going to kind of bring this up here towards the end so it's a little bit lighter out here on the end part. Let's go ahead and brush some of this from the end up here towards her ponytail. Her face down here seems still a little pink. Oh, whoops. Gotta watch my block. I almost put my arm in there. I'm gonna get it wet with just some water. And then maybe take my paper towel and dab it and try to pick some of that up. Because her face seems awfully pink. I don't think it needs to be that pink. There, that looks a little bit better. Okay, let's dry her hair. Try not to dry your finger. Okay, so for her stripes, I'm going to switch to this #1 brush to add a little bit of stripes into her hair. I'm going to pick up some of my brushed corduroy. And then I'm going to draw some little lines. Hopefully. Evidently I didn't pick up hardly any. And I haven't mastered the art of using the bigger brush to make little strokes yet, so this for me is the easiest way to do it, is switching to a little bit smaller liner brush. I am by no means an expert. The smaller brush does make it a lot easier to get into some of these little pointy spots down here at the bottom of these little stripes on her hair. Like so. And let's dry that. No, by no means an expert. I hardly ever watercolor, so it's fun to get it out though every once in a while and try it out. Okay, this poor girl's face. I'm gonna have to do something with that. I can't live with that. So what do I do with that? Tea dye. I cannot have her face be that brown. That's just too much. Or be that pink. She's gonna go have a tan. She's going to the salon to go to the tanning bed. There we go. Nobody's skin is that pink. I use, when I put the water down first, I use that as my, so I don't have to use as much ink. When I put the water down first, the ink will spread by itself kind of out to the edges. And then it kind of leaves a, like a, if you don't go clear to the edge, it'll leave a little white mark out here. And then then I let it dry so that when I put the second coat on, you're not, if it's still wet, the second coat you put on, if you only wanted it to be just like these little stripes in her hair, it wouldn't be like that. It would go, if it was wet still, it would just bleed all out here into the whole hair, and her hair would just turn brown. Same with her face. If you just wanted to, or her leg down here where we did the shading right here on her leg where we did the pink and then we did the brown here on the sides. If it was completely wet, the brown would spread from the side here clear over to the edge of her foot instead of just staying right here where I laid it down. Does that make sense? I'm liking how her hair turned out. That looks pretty good. Okay, so now let's move on to our little bear here. So we're going to wipe all this off. So you don't need all this in ink anymore. Just wipe that off. And for the bear, well, we can do, well, no, let's do the little dress here first. So for her dress, we're going to do black soot. And then I made her dress for the Copic coloring red, but we're going to make her dress blue. And it's not a very big space, so you're not going to need much ink. We'll get a little bit less this time. So let's say, here, I won't get it wet this time, so let's paint this shoe down here. So I'm going to get my brush wet, and then I'm just going to kind of dab it off a little bit on my paper towel so it's not soaking wet. And then I'm going to pick up a little bit of my faded jeans. And we'll start painting our shoe. But see how it just sits there? You have to move it around on your own with the brush. It doesn't really go anywhere. So I did all the work myself, moving it around, which you can do. But now if I take my brush and then let's get this side wet, and then pick up some of our faded jeans and put it on there. See how it's already spreading by itself over here on it makes it a little bit easier for you to work it around on your piece. If that makes sense. Okay, so let's add a little bit up here and see I went out of lines on her face too. This is going to be a mess. Okay, so I'm going to get it wet, pick up a little bit of our faded jeans, and see how when I touched it down on the water, it just spread by itself. Oops, I'm going to need a little bit more. And you can also use the re-inkers too if you have those to watercolor with. That's what I usually use, is the re-inkers, because they're concentrated, so you get a darker color right away. Let's see, we'll dab it on there. And it just moves around so much nicer, for me anyway, if you get it wet first. Okay, so when I get to the bear, I'll dry it again so you can kind of see how I did the, got it to blend in there a little bit better. Okay, so I'm gonna dry this. Maybe I need to go a little bit closer. Okay, let's see. I'm going down. It always seems like it's just not too close for me when I'm looking at it, but when it goes to out to wherever, it doesn't seem like it's close enough. So how's this? Does that look a little bit better? You see it a little bit closer? Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I want to add some shadows to my dress and stuff. So I'm going to grab a little bit of my black soot on my brush, and I'm going to add it to, so I've got some black, let me see what we got here. So I'm going to grab some black soot up here, and I'm going to add it to some of this faded jeans to make it a little bit darker. So we got a little bit of black mixed in there. And then you want to make sure to rinse your brush off, because it's going to have a lot of paint and stuff on there. And then we're going to pick some of this up that we mixed, and we're going to add that where we want some shadows. So let's say we wanted to go right here by this bear. And because it's not wet, see how it just sits there by itself? It doesn't go anywhere. Add a little bit to our shoe. Who's calling me? Oh, Ashley. We don't want to talk to her. This. And then I'm going to do a little bit up here towards the back of her shoe. Okay, so we got it on there. So now I'm just got water on my brush, and right here on this little spot right here, I'm just going to take the end of my brush and just lightly tap it along that edge. And see how it kind of just blends that color with the other one. Same for up here. Let's get this, let me get my brush back again. And then I'm just going to tap it. Whoops, I think that's too much water on the edge, if it didn't dry all the way. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit more of my, I'm going to grab some faded jeans and put right on top of that. Same down here. I'm going to grab some more faded jeans. I'm just going to tap that into this space. like that. All right, let's see here. Okay, I'm going to wipe all this off because I don't need that color anymore. And for our little bear here, we're going to do well, here I put the wrong, I'm going to have to redo these directions because on the directions I put down on the dress and shoes I made them red, but I didn't. I made them blue on this one, so I have to fix that. So the little heart here is going to be red, but I'm going to do that last. So for the little bear, we're going to use Victorian Velvet and some black soot. So I'm going to put some of that onto my block. And he's quite big, so you're going to get quite a pile here of your Victorian Velvet. All right, so I think that I'm going to start by painting him all of the pretty purple or Victorian Velvet color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my brush wet. And let's go up here. Let's start down here at his foot, because if you mess up his foot, it's not quite so bad. Okay, so I'm going to get his foot wet. And you want it to be just have a shiny sheen on it, not have a huge puddle. If you want it to have, if it has a huge puddle, you're going to want to dry your brush off and then pick some of that ink up with your brush that you've dabbed off. So there's not a huge puddle sitting there. And then we'll pick up some of our Victorian Velvet. And I want it to be darkest along his leg and this side. And then over the top of his foot right here. Okay, so I'm going to rinse my brush off. I'm going to dab it. And then I'm going to use this color I put down to lightly bring it out here. So I say, this is not going anywhere. Okay, I'm going to pick up some more of my ink over up here on my thing. Okay, so far so good. Okay, so for this foot over here, let's do up here. So let's go ahead and just get it wet first. Maybe I wiped too much off on that side. I'm going to go ahead and bring it all the way down. I'll try it this way this time. And then we'll come back and add a coat to that here in just a bit. But if you start by putting your paint down where you want it to be darkest, at least that way you've got dark right here on the edge, and then you can slowly pull this color over till the edge to the other side so it turns a light purple pink color. Uh-oh, I picked up some of my dress right there. No turning the bear blue. No, no, no. We don't want that. Okay, so we're going to go, let's add a little bit up here to the water to this. Let's just, got a little bit of water on there. I'm going to pick up some color. And then remember, put your brush down first where you want it to be darkest. So I want mine to be darkest over here on this side. And then just lightly work this over to the edge. so that it will turn pink. Okay, now we're going to do his little belly. Okay, so I'm going to try to be careful. I don't want to paint her hand purple. Which I can see happening. Same for over here. Be careful going between her finger. And around our heart. Okay, and we want it to be darkest over here on this side. So keep it moving this way. That's where the tip of this little brush comes in handy up here, because you can use just the tip to get in between our fingers there. So far, so good. I didn't color her hand blue or pink. Let's go up here and we'll do his face. So I'm going to grab some clean water. And let's see. We want it to be dark over here most. So we're going to do around this side. And we're going to color his nose black. Okay, so I want it to be darkest down here towards the bottom. So we're going to put our color down. And we're going to work this color around his face. I'm going to grab a little bit more. I got a little bit on his nose there but we're going to color black, so I'm not going to stress about that. Let's add some water to his ears. Got a little too much on there. You can see a huge puddle on there. So let's go over here and add some over here. And then I'm going to dab my brush off, and I'm going to come back with, after I've dabbed it, and suck some of that water back up with my brush, because we don't want it to be that wet. And then for his ear, let's have it darkest on this side right here. And then for this one, let's have it be dark on this side. Okay, let's blast him. I do not have these brushes in the store. I bought these, but there's a link down in the description box to, I bought mine at Dick's. You can also get them at Amazon, but I find that they're a little bit more expensive. So if you want to get like the watercolor paper, what I do is I get a watercolor paper and then a couple of brushes over at BLICK. And there's a link down in the description box, and it's an affiliate link, so I get like a couple of, it doesn't charge you extra, but they give me a little commission on it. But this one, I really like this one. It's number 6. That one works really good. And then this one is number 8, and it's a silver black velvet brush. This one works good for doing large spaces, like when we do the outside out here. This is going to work great for that. And then this one was a number 1, and I just picked this one up at my local craft store. So it's nothing, you know, expensive, but it works good. So, you know, number one, I've had this on my list to get from this size, but it's not my budget yet. So we're making do with that. All right, so next we are going to add a little bit of, whoops, I'm going to get some more of my black velvet, or my velvet here, Victorian velvet on my thing because I used it all up. And we want to add some shadows, so I'm going to take my black soot and my Victorian velvet, and I'm going to bring some of this black soot over here and mix it with this. So we'll get kind of a grayish pink color here in the middle. And we're going to use that to add some shadows. And then we can come back again and add some other colors here. Okay, so let's go down here and we'll do his foot first. So for his foot, I want to have like a little line here over this little furry thing. I'm going to do a little line. And then I want to bring this color up the back. Make sure I'm in screen, sorry about that. I had to look. We'll go like this. Bring this around over here. Okay, so now I'm going to rinse my brush off, and then I'm just going to pick up some Victorian velvet, and I'm going to go right over the top of that. I'm going to pull it out just a little bit past the line. And then I'm going to rinse my brush off, and I'm only going to have water, and I'm going to use that to tap the edge of this last color. And this still got a little bit of line, so I'm going to pick up some more of my Victorian velvet, and I'm going to bring this around. And let's get some just water. I'm making a huge mess. Okay, let's let that dry. We'll see how that looks. Hi, Glenna. Thanks for joining us. You're not late. We're just going along. All right, so we're going to go over here. Let's hop over here and do this foot. So again, I'm going to grab a little bit of that Victorian velvet and black soot that I mixed up. And I'm going to again go with my little line here above this fur. And then I'm going to do a little dab up here and along the bottom of his foot. So let's bring it out like this. And then I'm going to rinse my brush off, and I'm going to grab some Victorian velvet. And we're going to go right over the top of that line. And then I'm going to rinse my brush off. So I'll just have just water. And we're going to soften this edge. I'm going to pick up some more Victorian velvet because that's not softening it very good for me. So we're going to bring a little bit more in here. Okay, how's that? Not too bad? Okay, let's go up here and we'll add some to his little paws. So grab some of that color that I mixed up. And I'm going to do a little line right in here. And then we want to bring this color along our dark edge. And you can give him a little wrinkle right here if you want, because his arm is bent. And then just Victorian velvet color now. And then just water. And then I'm going to get some more of my Victorian velvet and bring that out here with just my water. All right, let's add some to this little guy. So he's got a little hair puff right here, so I'm going to go down the side of that. And look where I painted it blue right here. I'm going to cover it up with my black. Now we'll go over it with just the Victorian Velvet color. And then just water. I'm trying not to color her face purple. All right. I'll go up here and we'll do, I'm going to have to get a little bit more of my Victorian Velvet on my little pad over here because I've used it all up. So this is where using the re-inker would come in handy because you have a pool of that you can just dilute with water instead of having to do the little ink pad. All right. Hi, Tana. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so now we're going to go up here and let's add some shadows to his little ear. So again, I'm going to pick up some of that black soot mixed with my Victorian Velvet. And then we'll pick up just Victorian Velvet. And then just water. Get me a little bit more Victorian Velvet here. I think it needs to be a little bit darker. Dab my brush off and come in with just my water. Hey, this little ear. And then just water. And his face. Okay, moving right along. So for his face, I'm going to make the shadows go where this little line is right here. I think I'm going to need a little bit more black here. Let's get a little bit more. And we'll add some Victorian Velvet on top of that. That'll help dilute that a little bit. And let's see if we can get down in between these fingers right here too. Okay, and then we're going to rinse our brush off. And I'm going to grab just Victorian Velvet. Bring that out here. Grab a little bit of water. I'm going to use just water to add on here. Dab this edge. And then grab a little bit of Victorian Velvet on there. Soften this edge. Rinse your brush off. Get more water. Tab it on this edge so it softens that up. Like that. What do you think? Oh, it's a little wiggly when the camera's in this close. Do we need to? I think it was wiggly because I was stamping the. Is it still wiggly now? I think it's wiggly because I was stamping the stamp pad on the thing, and that kind of goes goes crazy when I got a little excessive with my stamping. So I'm liking how he is darker over here, and then he's got this really light pink color on this side. But I'm thinking that maybe I'm going to bring a little bit, like a little halo around his face, so maybe he can have a little bit of Victorian velvet around this way. And then, see, it's probably wiggly because I have to put my stamp pad on my thing, and I'm wiggling the table. Sorry about that. I do not have these brushes for sale in my store, but I do have a link down in the description box to Amazon and BLICK. So if you want to pick some up, I recommend BLICK because they are cheaper. And then what I do is I get watercolor paper and then a couple of brushes. So they have a lot of times they have free shipping. I'm not sure if they have free shipping going, international free shipping. You have to check on that. But I know in the US, if you order so much, you get free shipping to somewhere. And I know Amazon does that too on Prime. So you might check that. All right, so looks pretty good. I don't know. I'm kind of liking the bear like this time, even though on my original bear, let me get that. He's got this like little halo thing right here that I kind of like, but I don't know. He's very splotchy on this one. He's looking, so see, you get a totally different look than when you get the rest of the time. I don't know. I think I'm going to put some over here now. Okay, so I'm going to grab a little bit of water. And I'm just going to go around the side of his face in a little C here. And then I'm going to pick up some Victorian velvet. And we're going to use that C. And then we rinse my brush off and grab some water and then come in with my C and kind of spread it out. Hopefully that's going to work. Add a little bit more of my Victorian velvet on here, kind of soften this line. I think he needs a little shadow down here. Let's add a little bit of black down in here. Okay, I don't know if I love that. Whoops. Love that, but that's what we got. Let's dab it. Dabbing helps sometimes. Okay, now I'm going to blast it. All else fails, dab it. Thinking maybe I'm going to add a little bit more down here to his belly too. He looks like he needs a little more stuff on here. He's looking kind of sparse right in here. Oops. Watercoloring's like Copics. You could fiddle forever and ever and ever. Truly, I could. Okay, I'm liking his belly a little bit more. Okay, let's give him another heat tool blasting. And then we will paint that little heart right there. Oh, and his nose. Okay, let's do his nose next. So his nose is just black soot. So I'm going to get my brush wet and pick some of that up. And then I want it to be, let's see, maybe we can make a little lighter patch here at the top. On my Copic one, I left a little white spot. which you could totally do too later with your white paint pen. Okay, so now let's dry it. And I'm going to add some more because this is not dark enough for me. Okay, so far so good. Okay. I'm liking that. Okay, let's hop down here and we'll do this little heart. For that, I'm going to need to get my... Let's wipe some of this off. I got too much junk. Okay, so I need some fired brick. So I'm going to get some of that. And then... Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of... Whoops. Of my black soot along the edge right here. And then I'm going to pick up some fired brick. And I'm going to try not to paint the whole bear red. Oh, look at that. I did it. Yay! See, even the little things, they impress me. Yay! Okay, so now we need to give her something to stand on. So for that, we are going to use, oh, black soot. Good, I already have that out. So let me wipe off my block here. I'll pick the block up this time, so maybe that won't wiggle. Whoops, I touched the table, sorry. Won't wiggle it as much, but I did it anyway. Okay, so we're gonna do, I'm gonna go up a little bit. There we go. Okay, so I want to have a line for her to stand on here. So let's go like this over to the bear's foot. Maybe like this. And then I'm going to kind of use this water that's there to kind of wipe it down this way a little bit. Then we'll grab some black soot. But see how when I put the line of water there, it didn't go above the line. It stopped at that line and just sat there. Okay, how's that? Okay, so we want to do the background, so I'm going to go up some more. Okay, there we go. All right, so I'm going to switch brushes, and I'm going to use this number 8 silver black brush because it holds a lot more water and stuff. So for our background, we're going to use the same color we did the bear with Victorian Velvet and some black soot. So let me grab some more black soot. Whoops, that is not black soot. That's not going to work. Okay, let's get some more black soot on here. And then Victorian Velvet. What did I do with that? Here it is. Okay, now. I love to paint too. I just need to practice a little bit more, I think. But, you know, it's fun. it's like coloring with Copics or colored pencils. I enjoy both, so I like to switch it up every once in a while. Okay, so we're going to do this background out here, and I want it to be, I'm going to do black soot, so it's kind of a grayish color, because here, let me see my card. Here's my card that I made before, but see, it's got a little bit of black soot. It's got black soot, and then it's got some Victorian velvet out here in the outside to kind of break it up, because this just looked too boring, I guess, for me. Boring. That's what I'm going to call it. Boring. Okay, so I'm going to get my brush wet, and I kind of wiped it on the side of my cup. I'm going to move this. And let's start down here. So I'm going to do between her leg, because there's a little bit of space there. And then I'm going to paint in this section between his foot and his leg. And there's a huge blob of paint that I stuck on there. So we're going to see if we can cover that up with some of this. Okay, so I want it to be darker next to her shoe. I think I'm going to move my water bucket over here. Okay, we're going to let that go for a minute. Okay, so I'm going to get my water on my brush, and I'm going to go around, and I kind of did it in patches, so I didn't go all the way around. Seemed easier to me to go like up to his paw here. Okay, so we got all that color right there. So I'm going to dry my brush, or I'm going to wipe my brush, get it wet with some just water and wipe it off, and then I'm going to use my wet brush to dab this out towards the edge. And you can go as far out as you want to go. I'm going to go ahead and bring this down here too. But I kind of brought it to, there's a little lip right here. There's some dots right here. Can't think of what to call it. Dots right here, but there's a little lip right here along the edge. So I kind of let it soak out to that. So I'm going to brain freeze there. Okay, so now I'm going to add some more water. So we're going to go up here and add water up here. Pick up some of our black soot. Then I'm going to rinse my brush off, dab it, so it's just wet. And again, kind of dab out here so that it pools out here towards the edge. Okay, I'm going to have to turn her upside down because I can't. Unlike Copics where I can color upside down, I cannot watercolor upside down. Or get close enough to the line here to... Okay, let's try going all the way down this way. Okay, so let's add a little bit down here too. Let's kind of dab on here because this is kind of stark down here. All right, so this is what we got so far. But I want to go in now and add a little bit more shadows. So I'm going to switch to, because I don't want it to be clear out there, I want it to be a little bit closer. So I'm going to switch back to my number 6 brush. And let's add a little bit of shadows right next to our little bear here and under his arm. And then you want to make sure to wipe your brush off and come back with just water to soften this little edge right here. And let's add a little dab up here. And I'm thinking, sorry, I gotta turn it around again. Over here, we're gonna do some right in here. And I get my brush wet, which is water, kind of smush it out this way. Arch's cold press 140-pound paper is my watercolor paper of choice. Whatever that means. So far, I guess it's just because I have a bunch and I could just be like, oh yay. Hi Robin, thanks for joining us. Okay, so now, so you got all this stuff out here, but I want it to be more blotchy, so I'm going to take my brush and get it wet up here. And then I'm going to get my brush wet again and kind of blob it on the side of the cup and then pick up some of this black soot over here so it's really wet. Okay. Then I rinse my brush off, get more water, and use that to kind of make it more blotchy out here. I just like the look of it. You hate the look of that? Then don't do that. Oh, and I can get such an excess amount here. I can use this down here on this. Okay, so while it's still wet, we can go in, grab some of your Victorian velvet, and you can go. Maybe add a little bit over here. I don't think this is dry. Let's get this wet. Yeah, maybe a little bit over. Oh, this is still wet, so we don't need more water over there. Okay, let's blast it. And you could also tape it down. I didn't bother with that, but you could tape it down and it wouldn't be like this. See my piece? It's like all bent and warped and crusty. So taping it down does prevent most of that, but you need to let it sit and dry better, I guess. Let's try flipping it over. Let's start drying it from the back. Sometimes that helps flatten it out too. A little bit. Within reason. I got it pretty wet, so I don't think it's going to dry very flat. It's like, this whole side's like off the table, like 2 inches. You're going to have to give it a little bit of... It's looking pretty sad. Okay, here, let's bend it up. Okay. I think it's still wet. It's still damp. I put a little bit too much water on there. And two, when you let it dry without blasting it with your heat tool, if you just let it dry naturally, you're going to get a totally different look than you would get if you just let it air dry. A lot of times I'll let it, when I'm painting, I'll color something and then I wander off and leave it sit there and I come back and add more color later. It just depends on what you're working on. But there is our finished bear. Isn't he cute? Or she, whichever you want. I think he turned out pretty good. Okay, I'm going to wipe this ink off this ink block before I end up getting it everywhere because, you know, that's how I would do it. I would get it everywhere. I think I got some. I got to get it wet here. Okay. Put my brush over there. Put this over there. Move some junk. All right, let's put our card together. Let me see what I do with it. Oh, here it is. All right, so the stamp set that you get with this comes with, let me move this water too. I'm gonna see me making a mess. You get the big bear and then you get a smaller bear and then you get the little sentiment. So that's kind of cool that you get too. You could make a card and then you could have a little gift tag with this little cute bear here. So that's what comes in there. Okay, so I have all my parts. So on mine, I used the big stamp to stamp this, and then I cheated, and I stamped this little piece of paper with the smaller bears. So that's what you're going to have to do with your kit. You're going to have to stamp that on there, and I just kind of randomly, you know, turned it around however I wanted and stuck it on there. One of the DT members over on the Stamp and Bella website had made this card, and I'm like, oh, we are so going to do that. Because it was just too cute, because I'm like, why would they put 2 stamps in there? But after I seen it, I'm like, oh my, that's really adorable. And I've seen some cute tags too with the whoops, with the little guys, the little stamps. All right, so we're going to take your black piece and you're going to attach your little stamp piece. After you stamp it, you're going to put that on there. Maybe not like that. It doesn't look, I gotta get a little closer. I can't see the black for the mat here. Let me see. Okay. And then I popped this up off of my card base, so let's do that. So you girls have some questions? You gonna try watercoloring yourself? This kit is still available too, so if you haven't picked one up, make sure to go over and grab one before it's gone. And remember, you get the watercolor paper and you get the Nina paper, so you can decide which card you want to make, or you can make one of each, or and then have a third one. Or you can, if you have some black paper, you can make 3 cards. You can make 3 watercolor ones and 3 Copic colored ones. And I'll put the video for the Copic coloring up this afternoon. I shot it this morning. I just have to edit it and then get it loaded. So if you bought a kit and want to watch the Copic coloring, that will be on there. So make sure your card is opening the correct direction, because, you know, I'm the one who would open it backwards. Okay. And this little guy right here, I thought I had more parts. Evidently not. Okay, so for this little piece right here, what I usually do is I have a second piece and I'm going to glue it onto the another piece so that it's flat and let it set. So we're not going to attach that evidently because I didn't bring that in here. But you're going to attach the 2 pieces together or flatten it out or however you want to do it. And then this is popped up. And then this is going to be on here too. And this I white heat embossed with some Wow opaque white embossing powder or some Ranger super bright white something on here. And then this is just going to be popped up. This is popped up. This is popped up. And then you're all good to go. But I know this is not, I'm going to need to flatten this out. So I'm not going to be able to attach that. It'll just be like this. Womp. It's pretty bent. It looks pretty sad. But I will fix it. So that's what you get in that. So if you want to head over to the store and grab one, there's a link down in the description box, and you can make this card that we did now. And this video I will post here this afternoon, so you can pick whichever one you want to do. Totally up to you. Next week we are going to do thanks guys too for stopping by and, you know, coloring with me. I really appreciate it. Next week, we are going to do this adorable Moe's digital pencil image called Little Elf Kit. And I don't think there's a link in the description box, but over at Moe's Digital Pencil, or if you head to the store blog, this is a post, and underneath the post is a link to go grab this little girl if you'd like to color along next week for that. Then the following week, we are going to do this little Tilda with a stuffed animal. And I haven't decided how I want to do the class yet. If I want to do just the girl and then the people who bought the kit, we're going to do these little trees in a separate video later. I haven't really decided yet, but this will be in the store probably tomorrow. I'm going to work on it here in just a bit and put it together. So that will be the newest card kit for the following week. Also, don't forget that Ranger inks, if you want to watercolor your little girl there that we just did, Ranger inks are 50% off, so make sure to use coupon code RANGER. That's good for ink pads, re-inkers, oxide inks, Ranger ink pads, re-inkers. So if you want those, head over and grab some. I'm trying to clear some space. They're taking up too much room, so they gotta go. So hopefully you girls had some fun coloring with me today. If you have a question, make sure and leave me a comment down below. If you have a suggestion for a future live stream, make sure to let me know, and I will write it on my list. Because, you know, I need ideas. I want to do things you guys want to do too. Like watercoloring. This isn't something I do every day, but you don't get better if you don't practice. So it was fun. Something new. So hope you girls are all having a great week, and we will see you next Thursday at noon to color Little Elf Kit. Or I'll see you tonight if you're doing Bible journaling with me at 7:30. So have a great week, guys. Bye-bye. Got to figure out how to turn it off. Who knows?